Welcome back to another one. Today we're going to build a scope, but as is customary, let's go ahead and clear out our scene and jump right in. First of all, I want to come in here and create a reference image, and I'm blurting out the screen just for a little bit so I don't have to show everybody my setup. And I found this image on Amazon. It's of a spotter scope, and I found the best looking profile image of it I could find. I'm assuming it's not perfectly straight. So what I want to do is I'm going to set it to depth and scale to be front. So it's always in front of what I am modeling on top of it, and I can always see it. And I change the opacity. Now I'm bringing it in here, putting it in a collection by itself, giving it a color so I can visually see it very quickly. And then we want to come in here and start building it. So I'm bringing in a circle mesh primitive, kind of playing with some of the attributes here. Let's rotate it on the y-axis and then let's move it into position. Scale it. This is not going to be perfect at first. I'm really focusing on keeping this these pieces on the axis more so than perfectly trying to align it with the reference, because I can move the reference file later. All right. So I'm gonna build a front piece and the back piece off of this center ring. So for the front part of that edge, I'm gonna build the front part of the scope. For the back part of that ring edge, I'm gonna build the back part of the scope. That's the game plan. So now I duplicate the front edge, separated it out as a new thing. Go in the outliner. I'm gonna give it a name. This is gonna be the front part of our scope. And I want to add it into its own collection. This is going to be the collection where the scope itself lives. I'm going to give this a color as well because this is the model. And let's move the ring down into it. And let's give the ring a name in the outliner, because we're going to have enough pieces in here just so we can track it. Granted, this is a YouTube tutorial, but if I were to build this to animate, I'm building this out in different parts so we can animate it. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm basically tracing the contour of the reference image. Let me go back in here because it's off quite a bit. And let me slide it up just a hair. Hold on, I think I still got it locked. There we go. All right. It's not going to be perfect, but let's just get as close as we can. Now I'm coming back in here and I'm grabbing that front part of my scope and I want to extrude and scale. And I'm really looking at the reference, and I'm looking at areas of the reference where the contour of this changes more drastically than not. And then that's where I'm dictating to make my changes there. And see, if you look at that reference, see, it's not perfectly straight. So that was my concern in the beginning, but I'm just using the reference as a guideline. That's all. Doesn't affect anything. That's why I'm more focused on if my model's staying straight, not necessarily a reference. All right. So I come back to the ring, go to edit mode. I want to grab that edge that faces the backside, duplicate it, separate it, go back to object mode. And then I want to come here and I want to give this a name. That new object we separated off that ring or off that edge. And this is going to be the back portion of the scope. And now from here, I can start just contouring and tracing this just like we did the front. This is a little bit more complicated model than what I normally have on the videos, but it's not crazy. So I'm just going to show you how I try to problem solve this kind of in real time, because I didn't make one of these beforehand. I just kind of jumped in and was like, yep, I'm making this and let's start recording. That way, if I screw up or have issues, I want you to see it. If you notice here, that bottom piece is straight. It's only the top half of that scope that ramps up in its shape. So this is my solution to solving that problem. There may be others that have a better solution for this, but this is what I came up with without having made this beforehand. And it works. You'll see it's going to work. Let's bring all of these down. And I just went ahead and grabbed these bottom portion of these faces, or these, not faces, but these edges here, and just hit G on, restricted them on the Z-axis, brought them down. I'm going to bring in a loop cut here just to kind of break up those long faces. And what I'm doing now is I'm selecting this edge around here. I'm bringing it over. I want to scale it up, match it as best I can with this portion of the body of the scope. And what I'm going to do is to connect these two is I'm going to bridge edge loops. Boom, just like that. And then from here, I can continue. One thing I'll say right here that you need to be mindful of is when this kind of turns and angles back upward, you got to make sure that those edges aren't touching or overlapping, because then you'll get tears in your geometry. You'll have really funky looking stuff going on. Now, one thing I should have done here is there's a tool in Blender. I think it's called the tilt tool. I could be mistaken, but I know the tool when I see it, but I think it's called a tilt tool. I should have used that to do this, but I was busy just trying to rotate it and not do the tilt piece, because the tilt will do it off of I think it'll do it off of a pivot point. I could have also used, to get it nice and clean, perfectly clean, I could have also used the spin tool, not the spin tool, but the rotate tool. Not the same rotate. There's one that you use I use it for coffee cup handles a lot. It's over there on the left hand side. I could have used that, but like I said, I wasn't thinking. But you'll see that what I come up with ain't the prettiest thing, but it absolutely is going to work. It will flat out work. And I'm being very careful not to have overlapping geometry here. All right, so that's good enough for now. Let's go back up here at the front of the scope. Let's duplicate and separate that edge. Let's give it a name, because I like to name it right after I do it. That way I don't have 5 of them sitting in there and I don't know what they are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building out the lens cap. Granted, we don't have a lens yet, but we'll tackle that here in a second. All right, so now we're building out the lens. And if you notice, we're kind of doing the same stuff over and over and over again. All right, so one thing I want to point out here is I'm grabbing this single vertex, and I'm doing proportional editing by hitting O on the keyboard. And then I'm hitting my scroll wheel on my mouse to change the size of that little ellipse. And that determines the fall off or the area of influence for proportional editing. So all I'm doing is I'm moving that single vertex, but because proportional editing is turned on, it's proportionally changing every other vertex around it up until a point, and that point being covered by the size of that circle. If that makes sense. That's essentially what that's doing. All right, let's put some loop cuts in here so we don't have long faces. I'm going to add some little quick bevels on some things. And I'm gonna make this a little bit longer. Because what I want this to do is fit down in there inside of that area where that lens is. But notice that lens has a bow in it, and I don't want the bow to come through the cap geometry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these two edges here, and I'm going to move this closer to the lens cap, and that's going to cover our problem. I want there to be a little bit of air gap there, so when we render this and lighting hits it, it looks more realistic. All right, so far so good, guys. So let's bring in another circle. And what I'm building here is the focus knob section. And I already know what it looks like and where it should be, so I've got the reference just disabled for the moment, or hidden. All right, so we're going to extrude it, and we're going to bring it back close to the body. I'm just going to try to line it up. Now, there's a technique I could have used here where I could have done this. I could have done a Boolean. There's a number of ways I could have tackled this. I also could have like merged this and matched up the vertices there and tied them together as one. But I just chose not to do that here because I did not want a bunch of verts going across that body, because when sub D hits it, I want it to smooth out. I don't want it to be restricted by a bunch of loop cuts. So that's why I didn't go that route. There's also another method, like looks like what I'm doing here, where you can like copy over some of the face data through a modifier. And to be honest with you, I probably would have done that and showed it to you, but I just couldn't remember exactly how to do it because I've only done it like a handful of times. It's not a technique I use a whole lot. And like I said, you'll see that this technique works. It could be better, but it absolutely works. And I'm not trying to focus a tutorial on this one little piece here. So that's kind of why I chose not to do the data block copying, face data block copying method here. All right, so extrude and scale, grid fill. And like I said, with the grid fill, you don't have to align this up. It just looks a little nicer. It's more of an aesthetic thing. It's not a functional thing. And I'm gonna do the proportional editing deal here again because I just want this to bulge out a little bit. All right, that's good enough. I was looking it over. Let's put some loop cuts in here because we got really long faces. And what I want to do is I want to grab every two faces and skip every two faces, and that should give me an even selection all the way around. I know there's checker deselect, but I think checker deselect does every one. If there's a way, if somebody knows to do two or more, like explicitly pick the number of faces that stay selected during checker deselect, leave it in the comments because I'd love to know. I don't know how to do it. I've never figured out how to do it that way. I don't even know if Blender will do it, but be nice. It would be nice if it did. All right, so I'm putting some loop cuts in here. I also did offline. You're not going to see it here in the video, but I did a lot of like tight little bells on those edges so that when we run some D on this, it doesn't look muddy or like messed up. Also did a solidify on here and applied it. Now I'm checking my normals. I'm recalculating normals because every time I do an extrusion, I always like to recalculate normals because I've seen it where you don't do that and you've got backwards normals or what they call flip normals, and then you get weirdness. Textures don't look right or don't work right. Shapes don't look and work right. Like you get all kinds of crazy. So just always check your normals. All you have to do is hit Shift in and it'll just fix it. All right, so I'm grabbing all these faces down here because I'm gonna create like a platform, and this platform usually has a screw that goes in the bottom of it where you screw it into like a tripod. I'm not worrying about the screw hole. I just want to get the basic shape there for this tutorial, and that's what we're doing here. I'm not even gonna make the tripod because it'll probably add another 5 or 7 minutes to the video. All right, so right here is kind of important. So we have an oblong shape. I selected those two edges and I'm using loop tools and making a circle. And we want to scale it in so we don't have overlap in geo. And from here, this is going to be, we're going to use this hole here to start out our eyepiece. Now I'm going to grab the edge here that's closest to the middle. I'm going to separate it out. And now from here, I'm going to give it a name. Then we can go back to the front view, which essentially will be the profile of the scope. And we can then extrude out the eyepiece like that. I'm not going to worry about the lens for the eyepiece because in this use case, I'm just never going to show it. I'm just going to show you if you wanted to do this, I'm gonna sculpt it in, but you could do materials on it. You'll use the same technique that you'll see me use to put materials on the front lens, because I will do that one, even though it's going to be hidden by the lens cap. But if you wanted the eyepiece to look the same way, use the same technique. And the straight lines look neater. However, I'm just showing you can change this. That's the only reason why I'm clicking around in there, just to show you can change it. It's more of an aesthetic thing. As long as you have an all quad solution in there, you're good to go. So let's do a level 2 sub D with shade smooth on everybody. And I got to make sure we don't forget the lens itself, but maybe we'll just do it when we start screwing around with the lens a little bit more. Yeah, see that looks pretty good. And like I told you with that eyepiece, I mean, there how shall I say, slightly better and more accurate techniques to doing that, but the way I did it, it works perfectly fine. Okay, so we got the lens as well. So now we're done modeling. Yay, we're done with that. So now let's go ahead and start doing materials. So what I want to do is I'm gonna grab this body. I'm gonna go into my materials panel, create a new material. I'm gonna give it a name so I know what it is, because we will be reusing it. And I'm gonna give it kind of like an olive drab or OD green look. And right now I'm just eyeballing color. I'm going in my color wheel trying to find what looks like the right OD green that I'm used to seeing. And then I'm playing with the metallic setting because it needs to be metal, but I don't want it to be shiny metal. I want it to be a little bit, not dull, but I want to have a little more of a sheen to it, a slight sheen to it, because it's not supposed to be super glaring or like a mirror for a spotter scope. And I'm not running camo on it. I mean, I'd use a procedural or a texture map or something for that if I was to do that. All right, so let's do this ring. I want it to be more metallic, but I want it to be the same OD green. And we got that covered. So now let's do the cap. And the cap's gonna be a little bit different because I want this to look like a black plastic. So let's split the view here, the viewport, and let's change the one on the right to the shader editor. And I want to delete the principal node, and I want to bring in two primary nodes, a glossy and a diffuse, and then to tie them together I need a mix shader node. So let's bring in that mix shader. Then I want to wire these up, so I'm going to bring the glossy down into A, diffuse into B. I'm going to change the color to black, and then I'm going to take the mix shader output and hook it to the output, and then you'll see it on the screen happen. So it doesn't look real black. That's because we have a factor of 50%. Now I'm going to, because that black diffuse, which is the color, the main color, it's in the bottom one. That's socket B. Socket B is usually further to the right. Socket A is further to the left in the mix shader. So I'm biasing it closer to the diffuse. So there's going to be more diffuse applied than gloss. If that makes sense. One other note about the plastic nodes that I make. One other thing that would be helpful, but I just didn't do it because it looked kind of like I wanted it, so I didn't see the need, is if you change the IOR value, which is index of refraction. It's the way light refracts off an object. If you look that up and look at the value for plastic and you plug that value in, it looks even more realistic. Like I said, I didn't, only because it looked like I wanted it to look, so there was no need to change it. And I'm just copying this same thing over. What I could have done as well is I got the lens cap done, and I could have select the eyepiece cap and the focus knob, and then linked materials. If you want to see how to do that, look at my previous video to this one, which was the modeling tutorial on how to make the potpourri pot. You'll see I use that in that video, and I use it in a number of other videos too. Linking materials, that is. All right, we're pretty much done, but we got to deal with the lens now. So here's what's different about this. This is one object, and I'm going to apply at least 2 materials to it. So watch how this is done. When I first started using Blender, it took me forever to find a video on how to do this properly. So I want this much of the selection to be the actual glass, the lens, and then that little ring of faces around the edge, I want that to be like the black plastic, and I'm just going to use the same black plastic material. So what I did is I go in the material panel here, and I bring in my black plastic node for the second, or as the second material, but I haven't applied it to nothing yet. So now I hit Control I, and that allows me to select that inverse, which is that ring, and now I hit assign. So it assigned the second material that I selected in the shader thing to the selection. Now I hit Control I again, and it did the opposite selection, which was the lens, and that I select up in that shader menu the top shader. So now I'm arbitrarily going in here and I'm making like a default glass shader, not getting too fancy with it. And really like I say, I'm just trying to show you guys how to do this. And then I hit assign to that selection, and then it applies it. That's essentially how you can take one object and apply multiple shaders or multiple materials to the same one single object. It's very easy once you understand how it's done. So now we've got everything's got a texture on it. And there's the cap. And we essentially are done. Good job. You've done it again. You guys are awesome. So let's go ahead real quick and look at the finished object here. That's the finished product, my version. And if you notice, I've got bump on mine, but we can do that another time. So I hope you like this video. If you love this content, please do me a favor and like, subscribe, and click the notification bell for updates. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.